All right, everyone. It's your boy. I'm back again, and I had this chart, and I've been thinking about this chart. I've been trying to brainstorm how to tell people how to choose a character. Because in my whole Tekken career, I've gotten that so many times, and I was like, like even before you play the game, this is like something that you have to do before you even touch the game. You know what I mean? It's like before you run, you got to put on your shoes, right? And every character is kind of like, which kind of pairs of shoes do I wear to run? You're not gonna wear flip-flops to run unless you're crazy and weird. You know what I mean? Or even go barefoot. For all you toe lovers out there. So that's what this is based off of, and it's very, very important to know. It's kind of like if you love to wear Timbs, you're gonna wear Timbs, right? And you love running in Timbs, so you're gonna wear Timbs all the time. But there's gonna be another dude who could probably wear like some Cortezes, and he'd be like, yeah, I love Cortezes. It's kind of like that, right? So that's just an example. But I'm gonna tell you about how I designed my character roster charts, right? So I designed my character roster charts based on the player's experience and which character they should choose from that. Okay, so like I said, every character is kind of like like a pair of shoes. Okay, which pair of shoes do you like running with, or make you feel the best? That's kind of how the characters go. It's like, and then it's like if you're good at running, you know what to look for in a shoe. Or like, if you're good at walking, you know what to look for in a shoe, right? Like you want the, I don't know, like the dad shoes with the fucking springs in the back and shit, because you're like, oh, I love the springiness, it's like that, right? So if you know what shoe you're looking for, what shoe does the job, then obviously you want to look for the type of characters that fit that play style, So, I mean, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself, but that's kind of what I based this chart, or which character I think you should play based off of, right? So these are the three factors that I took into consideration. It took so much brainstorming because I kept going back and forth, but this is what it comes down to. Okay, so it's like if you've never played a fighting game, this is how you should do it. All right, and that's one factor. And then another factor is if you have somewhat played some kind of fighting game, that counts too. Like if it's like Jump Force, like stupid arena fighters like that, like Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm, that still counts. I'll explain later. And then if you're experienced, if you are an experienced fighting game player, which means you have played something like Guilty Gear or Mortal Kombat, you know what I mean? I'll definitely explain more as we talk about the charts about why I say these things like in a certain way. And if you're experienced, you could definitely use the chart where if you're somewhat experienced to fighting games as well, or like if you have never played fighting games as well, you know what I mean? Like you can only go backwards though. If you are somewhat experienced in fighting games, I do not recommend you using my experienced chart, because I mean you could, but it kind of like, it doesn't work like that, you know what I mean? It's kind of like if you're watching a movie, if you're an adult, you can watch like rated G movies or PG-13, right? But then if you're PG, you can't watch rated R movies. It's like that. That's how I would say my chart is. I mean, you could if you don't give a fuck, but if you want it to be scary or get know what a boob looks like, and you're like rated PG, it might fuck you up really badly mentally. You're not mentally prepared for this. So just watch out. That's what I would rate my chart based off of. But we're gonna start off with the first chart, okay? The first chart, let's take a look. This is the first chart. There's nothing. It's no color, okay? You might be like, what the fuck does that mean? It means you can choose whoever you want, alright? It's kind of like how I see it is that if you're new to fighting games, you should be able to choose whichever character looks the coolest to you, or whatever one that your soul calls for. It's kind of like if you're a weeaboo, if you watch Bleach, like it's all based on what your soul chooses. It's all what's inside your soul. So, like take a deep breath, look at the character roster and see which character speaks to you. Hover over them and just see, because you are, clean slate, not tarnished. Like you don't have any experience. So no matter which character you choose, you're gonna build upon your slate and be okay. You know, you don't have to worry about, oh, what about this? Oh, what about this execution? It doesn't matter. You will build upon it. You know what I mean? So if you have never played fighting games, choose whichever character calls to you. You know, like in Bleach, it's kind of like you have to look inside yourself and you will find the name of your sword. And once you understand the name of your sword, you can, you know, call Bankai any fucking time you want and, you know, go sicko mode pretty much, you know. So that's what the first chart means. Whichever character you love the most or it speaks to you the most, choose them. That's how you choose your first character if you have never played a fighting game, okay? Now, if you are, now we're moving on to the next chart. So now if you have some experience in fighting games like Jump Force or like even Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm, right? This means you have some experience. And you might be like, dude, those games are fucking garbage. What do you mean? Those games teach you basics. Pretty much like the most basic. Like, you know how to block. You know how to mash and pretty much, you know, get a move out. You know, that's even the most basic concept. Is like knowing when that you can attack and when you can block. Like, that's the most basic concept of a fighting game. You know what I mean? And they already teaches you that. So that's good. You know, it teaches you how to press buttons, and that's very important. Many people downplay even like shit like that. It's like when you run and you don't know how to stand. It teaches you how to stand and at least take a couple steps, you know. It's like that. So I based this chart based on execution, right? Because I remember when I first started, I also started playing like Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm, and then when I first got Tekken 7, I couldn't even do a quarter circle forward input, and even today, I can't even do like a perfect Electric Wind God Fist. Like, I can't even get that Electric Wind God Fist, or you know, the simultaneous input. I just get a Wind God Fist, alright? So this is what the chart is based off of, right? So I try to generalize it as much as I could. So if you play Tekken, you know, you have a problem with it, that's your problem. I tried to do the best I could, man. Like, I really did. So green meaning low execution means very rarely will they have you know, a quarter circle forward input or like a DP input. And a DP input is pretty much means like forward, neutral, down, down, forward, right? So like, you know, if you don't even know what that means, use this chart, because if you see any orange characters, that means that they have that. You know, they have these hard moves to execute, and it might be really hard, you know. And you have to throw it out in neutral, which means you have to just be able to do it on command if you need it out right away. And, you know, it's really tough. Like, even, you know, I remember starting out and I wanted to play Kazuya. It was really hard because that's what you have to do, you know. And if you see some of the yellow characters, yellow means medium execution, right? So the most you would probably have to do is just a quarter circle forward input, right? And that's, you know, down, down, forward, forward, right? So if that is a bit too demanding for you, if this input is a bit demanding for you, you know, it's like an okay difficulty. Try it out if you want to try. These yellow characters are the characters that have it. So watch out, right? Like, if you, okay, yeah, just watch out. Be aware of that. The only two characters that are yellow that I want to make note of is, like, King has a lot, or actually I should say 3. Yeah, King has a lot of, like, special grabs. I mean, and you have to do very hard inputs, right? So just be aware of that. And if you play, like, if you want to play, like, Reina or Jin, they do have like a baby mode input to do their Wind God Fist, right? And in heat mode, you get a perfect execution all the time, right? So just be aware of that, right? And then, like I said, if they're orange or, you know, so-called red, you know, whatever the fuck color that is, they have hard inputs to do, you know. I put Lee on there because he has misstep, right? I'm explaining to the people who play Tekken and they understand what that is. Misstep is a very unusual for new players, you know, so just be aware of it. It is very hard. I mean, honestly, if you aren't scared of difficulty, try these characters out, you know what I mean? Like, just because they're red doesn't mean you should avoid them. It just means that they are going to be a bit more demanding, okay? So now we're going to go into the third chart, right? So this means your experience. You've played games like Guilty Gear, and you've played games like Mortal Kombat. You understand, like, you understand like how hard some inputs are, right? I don't even know if Smash would count, but if you played like hard games like that, right? It's kind of like the comment that I had earlier. It's kind of like, oh yeah, you know, this guy named Huang, I don't know, was like saying, I'm sorry if I butchered that, saying, hey, I play Guilty Gear and Blaze Blue. I don't know what CF means. I can't remember what CF is. I don't know. Is that like part of Blaze Blue? I don't know. Anyways, you know, just because you play those games, you understand execution, but even then, I don't know if you have what it takes, because Tekken is like a whole different flavor of ice cream. You know what I mean? It means you just understand what is demanding, you know, like what is needed to play these characters, right? So it's kind of like that. You know what it takes to, you know, like pretty much play, right? You pretty much know what it takes to execute these things, right? So because I say that you're experienced and you know what it takes to execute, this next chart is all based off of like play style, okay? I understand that Tekken 8, in a way, you can kind of play these characters in like any play style, okay? I understand that Tekken 8 is like an aggressive game and you can play every character aggressively, but I'm trying to do it the best that I could for like, you know, a completely new player who hasn't played Tekken before, right? And it kind of goes based off of, do I want to have my turn all the time, or do I want to try to outplay them, or do I want to have both, best of both worlds, right? I try to simplify it in threes, okay? Think in threes. Anyways, this is what the chart is based off of, right? So if you see that the characters are blue, you have to pretty much hold back more, and you have to learn how to outplay most characters, okay? You have to learn how to outplay the opponent more than you have to, you know, in order to win. You pretty much have to learn how to outplay the opponent to win more, in my opinion, right? And then if you're yellow, you could pretty much hold defense and you could gain offense easily, okay? So you can have insane like plus frames and be crazy, but it's not like overwhelming. But it's just that like, oh, when I'm offensive, I'm offensive, but when I'm defensive, right? Well, let me go back to the defensive players. So like, even if you're like the defensive players and you have like, you know, plus frames, it could get like shut down very quickly, you know what I mean? Kind of like Heihachi. Like Heihachi doesn't really have much lows, right? He doesn't really have much really good lows or like good neutral tools. He kind of has to go in and try to find his way to punish you, right? Or like Lars, right? As much as people hate Lars, it's kind of like he has to really pick his moments when he can go into stance, right? And then it's like Lily players, right? Like Lily's blue too, right? Lily players they can't just go in. They have to pretty much sidestep and punish and find all these tiny windows, right? It's kind of like you have to learn Tekken a lot if you want to play the blue characters, is what I would say. And then the aggressive, right? The red characters. You can kind of just go crazy. You can kind of just go crazy, okay? You can mash if you want, and it would be very overwhelming to a bunch of new players, you know what I mean? Like, you know, like, oh, you're like, oh yeah, then I could put Lars there. But the thing is, Lars, like, I mean, you know, obviously if you're new to Tekken, it's not really recommended because it creates like fake situations, right? But it's like these characters, I feel like if they're red, they can still party hard, you know what I mean? They can party hard and do whatever they want. Even at the high ranks, they can kind of party hard, right? Like Kuma, once he has his heat activated, he could just win Godfist. You have to just sit there and take it, you know what I mean? Like Eddie, in a way, I feel like can do this too, because his mix-ups are just like, he's so like generally safe, you know what I mean? He's like, occasionally he does have to be launched, but if he wants to play like at the most be like -13 or -14, depending on the matchup, it's really tough to really get anything started, you know? And he has like, you know, cheap ass armor moves. But anyways, we're getting too much in detail about what it takes to be experienced. But yeah, I tried to do the best I could to really choose these play styles, right? So it's kind of like defensive. If you want to learn how to outplay your opponent, or you want to outplay your opponent more, try the blue characters, right? And then if you want to be able to have best of both worlds, outplay and be scary at times, try the yellow, right? And then if you're red, just because you're red does not mean that you can't outplay your character. I mean, outplay your opponent too, you know? It's kind of like, oh yeah, you could do all of it, but you are very, very beneficial. Like, you have the most benefits when you are like in their face. That's what I would say, right? when you're in their face, you have the most advantage. So this is what I try to base my chart off of. And I still remember what it was like choosing a character way back in Tekken 7 too. I almost dropped a Lars, and I was like, dude, I can't do these quarter circle forward inputs. What the fuck, you know what I mean? So, yeah, like I said, let me recap, right? So if you are an experienced player, you can always look back at the previous charts as well. You know, and if you're somewhat experienced, you know, you can, you know, just choose based on feeling, or, you know, if execution really worries you, you can try it out too, you know what I mean? But do not be scared if they take high execution. As long as you practice, you'll be okay, you know what I mean? So, and then if you're like completely new to fighting games, never played them before, choose whichever character you like, you know what I mean? You could definitely take a look at the other charts and see where they're at, but I don't think it really applies to you if you have never played it before, you know what I mean? So these are my charts and how I would choose the characters. You know, definitely if you want to try, you know, try out every character, you know, see which shoes fit the best on your feet, you know what I mean? Dude, man, Quentin Tarantino would be such a big fan of, you know, how I teach. Anyways, that's all I would say. Try your characters, use this chart to guide you. Don't have to follow it, just let it guide you. And that's all I have to say, man. So have fun in your Tekken journey. That's all. Skirt.